as ever, I have to do a lot of, yes, admit, Kate. So, so my friends, namaste to all, and we discussed about three diseases of the mind in couple of sessions, and they are attachment and detachment, and second is the it leads to sorrow and the suffering, and the third, it causes the delusion in the mind with the wrong notion, the wrong notion. And then we also understood the eight factors. I'm just reminding you: object, then comes the sense organs, likes, dislikes, attachment and detachment, desire, desire fulfilled, greed, desire not fulfilled, uh, suffering, sorrow and the suffering. The first three factors are connected, and that leads to delusion. Delusion leads to loss of memory, and loss of memory leads to loss of intelligence. And that is why we suffer in our daily life. So, if you have contemplated and reflected, and you had enough time to listen and contemplate on the previous sessions, and if you have a question, why this mind? Why and how? This mind leads to these three diseases. So, one answer is very simple. We already know that it is because of attachment and detachment. Then the next question comes: why this mind attracts these three illnesses? To ask the next question, that how come the mind works? So if we understand clearly how this mind works, then it becomes easy for us to take care of the mind. I know you all are seekers, you might have reflected on this. So in few sessions, we will understand the flow of the mind. But before that, we have been talking about purification of the mind. So I'm giving you a couple of thoughts to think over it. Uh, you know, you listen to me, the principles of Eastern wisdom. We all have our intellect, we are human beings, and we understand it. We claim there is a clarity, but even after the clarity, the mind does not change. I was asking Brandy, do you smile all the time? No, I try. So trying comes from the mind. Now pay attention what happens. There is a clarity in the mind. We have understood the principles. These are the three diseases. But the mind continues with its emotional dependence. Mind continues with its emotional dependence. It continues to blame and complain. Terry was also saying the same thing before the beginning of the session. That is why we say we need to purify the mind. We need to, if we purify the mind, then what happens? The knowledge from here descends down into the heart, which is the seat of the mind, and the mind changes. We are there. Now, if we are not there, now go to the world and understand that many people, many, they study the text. Or look at, many people go to Harvard and MIT, their IQ goes up very high. But they do not change their mind and its emotional dependence. What happens? Do you remember the word? how many people commit suicide? The emotional dependence, that emotional changes do not take place in the mind, even though I know it. I stopped giving that example of a genius Bill Gates, but you think of it, that why we continue to suffer, and the time comes why we continue, why many people commit suicide, because even after I know it. Have you heard that, the many great philosophers and even the writers in the history committed suicide? Have you heard that any master in the Eastern wisdom committed suicide? Compare so that you have a clarity. So the mind is a stumbling block in the journey. That is why we continue to say, huh? You have to change your mind. So when this mind rise in consciousness by learning these principles and the practices, when the mind rise in consciousness, then whatever the knowledge that we have learned, we have understood, there is a clarity. So that knowledge descends into the mind and it transforms. Knowledge plus practice. This is both are together. But when we fall in consciousness, it is because of the three diseases, then frustration, pain, suffering enters in our life. It is not because of, you can add, it is not because of anyone in the world else. Whether he or she is your honey, your friend, your employer, your employee, or wealth, or body, no way. Just I'm deviating a little bit to understand another. This fall in consciousness is by default since our birth, because we have a lot of expectations from the world outside. So in Kundalini meditation, we say we have to shift this energy. We have to raise this energy. We have to strip this energy from the lower movement of the consciousness to the higher. Maybe from the sensuality, from the desire, from the greed. That is what the Kundalini meditation is all about. But if your focus remains on the emotional dependence on these lower centers or lower states of the consciousness, even after 20 years, you cannot reach to that state. One thing. And another danger in the Kundalini meditation is that I still have those desires of emotional dependence, and I practice meditation. So the lower mind mixes with the higher practice of meditation, and it creates a lot of hallucinations and manipulation. So when we are a seeker, we understand that, and so then what is the result? Then we must acquire the knowledge by learning the principles of each. Clarity is there. So once that clarity is there, then comes that mind. What is this mind? Why mind becomes crazy, lazy, obsessed? Why it invites likes and dislikes? Huh? So when it invites likes and dislikes, mind dwells in the world. It starts brooding. It starts the mechanical movement. When it starts the mechanical movement, after dwelling, It is thinking and thinking of fantasy. What is fantasy? That you will give me peace and happiness. Kristen understood. She nodded her head. Younger should attend. So fantasy leads to desire. And desire leads to delusion. And delusion, what is delusion? One master used to say this delusion is temporary madness. Temporary madness. And then in that temporary madness, the mind has a loss of memory, loss of intelligence. And then we suffer. We are moving slowly. What is this mind? How this mind works in our daily life, and how to arrest those movements of the mind that leads to suffering. So you see that when I'm picking up only desire, delusion, desire and delusion, when they mixed up, it results into different kinds of violence, crime at the physical level, at the mental level, at the emotional level, to myself and also to others. But we are a seeker. I'm leaving that. We are a seeker. Another important point that I want to mention here, because you all are seekers and you are living near and dear with non-seekers. Are you getting it? It's a very important point now in the life of a seeker. It happened to me too much. So what happens when you are living around non-seekers means they are not treating this path. The world outside of people, what happens? They will give you a very hard time in your life. It's a wonderful. When the couple joins the session, then they both understand. But still, we have a problem with the people who are living around you. You're doing meditation, why you are angry? You see, people will blame and complain you. I have heard you, I have seen you. I see you every day, you close your eyes, wasting your time. Near and dear ones will definitely blame and complain. Do you see that every master has dealt very deeply with all the subtle matters in our life? So if you say, no, I'm going for meditation, so I have a session. Oh, okay, do it meditation. Just closing your eyes. I have seen your behavior and attitude daily life. Have you heard those blames and complaints around you? If not, you will hear it. If not, you will definitely hear it, because now your mind is moving towards purity, and your near and the dear ones, they will definitely complain, try to make you crazy. You have to tolerate that. You have not to respond to it. First thing. Oh, yes, I'm still learning. I know I have been angry yesterday, but I'm still learning. I'm learning. How long you are going to learn? They try to push you. They try to irritate you. They try to to irritate and trigger your ego. No way. You have to remember and go back to titiksha, the fourth treasure you have to tolerate. This is what I'm saying. It happened to me for years together. Oh, look at this guy every day. He wakes up at 5 and he sits there. I have seen him. they will try to blame, they will try to make you crazy for anything, for everything, because they are non seekers. So be kind to them. How to be kind to them? Withdraw yourself, remain calm. If not, you will again become a non seeker. then then I'm the only left, will blame and complain this guy, he has been teaching, nothing happened. I have tried for 10 years. Nothing. You might be facing some of these things. Maybe your son, maybe your daughter, maybe your honey, maybe your friend, maybe your senior. That is, it's a word of caution. They are non-seekers. They are not understanding this journey. Leave them. And this happened to Buddha. I gave that example. When the Buddha got enlightenment and he went to his father, knocked the door, and he said, okay, you have come. You see that what his father said? I know you have been begging, I overheard from a lot of people because of you got frustrated, you are not able to feed yourself. That is why you knocked the door, and that is why you have come. That was his perception. So, non seeker always has that perception. I have to guard myself from those if I am a seeker. So Buddha, father said, take over this kingdom. You are the only son. Buddha smiled and said, now look at the seeker. Dad, dad, dad and dead, seems to be very common. Anyhow, the dad, I should never become old. I am ready to take over the kingdom, provided, first condition, I should never become old. Second condition, I should never die. Third condition, I should never become sick. And the fourth condition, there should never be any enemy for me and my kingdom. If you meet those four conditions, I will take over your kingdom. Now apply this in your daily life. So that, with that introduction, we can come to the mind. Can we know something about this mind? What is this mind? How it functions? And if we are a seeker, then in the mind we live with the fourfold practices: discernment, dispassion, six treasures, and we have a desire for ending the suffering and living in the permanent peace and happiness. Another part that I should make you understand, that when you are a seeker and you continue with these fourfold practices, your thought pattern changes. If they are changing, you see what happens? You get irritated with the honey, but now you are not. There is a trigger from the mind about the image that you have created about your boss and employee. That trigger has minimized because you are a seeker. Now, for every problem in your life, I will blame you. You are responsible. Why? Because of the mind. Our goal now is totally fixed. I want to bring an end to the suffering once and for all, and I want to awaken to my inner peace, permanent peace and happiness, love and wisdom. I believe you all are here. So the next question comes, Terry, who is holding me? I mean, mind is holding me to a particular object that causes the sorrow and the suffering, or the object is holding. First thing to understand. And then I will bring the first clarity about the mind as taught by the masters. Who is holding me? My master used to give a wonderful example. A boy was swimming, holding on the log of wood in the river. After some time, he finds that log of wood is holding him. He realized that log of wood has hands and feet. Oh my God, it was crocodile. Do you understand the delusion? Who is holding me? Yes, keep that smile, Christina, all the time. Younger ones, we all are young, just unnecessarily saying. And did you understand that the log is holding him the same way the wealth, home, car, honey, beloved, soulmate, holding me, or I am holding? I made a very gave a tough example of crocodile. Think of this. Once you drop the delusion, the real love being expressed in all the relationships. So you need not to worry, if I'm not attached, then how there would be a love. That I made it clear. Now comes the first part. Have you heard of Ida hurricane, Kate? Hurricane Ida. Ida hurricane.
Ida.
Ida, okay. Thank you for correcting my pronunciation. Ida. It spells the same IDA whether you say Ida or Ida. So, Ida hurricane came from the river. Yeah? Which river, Kate? You don't know.
I don't know the name of it.
Maybe Mississippi River or any river. Now, what I want to convey to you, that river is a flow of water. Am I right? Mind is a flow of thoughts. Clear? Now, Ida hurricane, how it came? When the flow of that water reversed, it created a whirlpool and thousands of the home were destroyed. Are you getting it? River is a flow of water. One flow and the opposite flow. When there is an opposite flow in the river, it created Chicago River. Sometimes it happens in Chicago River, sometimes it happens in Michigan Lake. Leave that lake. Mind is a flow of thoughts. Mind is also a flow of thought, but it has two flow, the way the river has two flow. Ida hurricane. Ida hurricane temporarily reversed the flow of the part of Mississippi River, and that is why we suffered. I'm stressing it again. Mind is a flow of thoughts. It has one direction, it has opposite direction. So when it flows in the opposite direction, Ida hurricane takes place in our mind, in our life. Yeah, step by step we are understanding what the hell this mind is. And once we understand clearly, then it becomes easy for us. Oh, Ida hurricane has come to my mind. Stop this first. Become a seeker. Follow the fourfold practices. And you will discover that even if the anger is there inside, it dissolves and it melts. Then soulmate remains only in your heart. And that is being expressed outside. I believe you have understood. River has one flow. No, river has two flows. Similarly, the mind has two flows. This comes from Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Commentator explains so beautifully. So I'm using his commentary. So we have two opposing sets of experiences in the mind. Clear? Two flow. One is fear, insecurity, anxiety, pain, reaction, attachment, detachment, likes, dislikes, blame, complaint, instinctive, impulsive behavior. One flow. That causes the Ida hurricane, That causes the Ida hurricane in my mind. I should become aware. Oh, now Ida is coming into my head. So the moment I become aware, I know I can minimize its impact. That is what they predict and they announce. Be careful, safe. So the first step of a seeker is to reverse that flow or remember the opposite flow. The second flow is what is right and good, what is peace and happiness, what is love and knowledge. Are you getting it? Mind is a flow of thoughts. It has two flows. They are natural in the mind. That is why we need to purify the mind. By default, it is there. Why by default? Because we evolved from the animal kingdom. So we carry forward that animal mind. We carry forward that animal mind to flow. Are you getting it? I believe so. To flow of the mind. They are natural to the mind. Natural in a sense, they are mechanical, they are instinctive, they are habitual. But because we are a conscious human being, we are not animals. Hence, we have to change this flow once and forever. And that is why knowledge is required, contemplation is required, reflection is required, followed by the practice is required. So now think of this. Just think of it. From where the river originates, I gave you another thought and then we will do the practice. We will take up the next. From where the river originates? From glacier? From the rainwater? I'm just comparing so that you will never forget. And sometime from the spring, the volcano erupts. Yeah? Three factors. The glacier in the mind, we carried forward the past impression from the previous birth. That is why my response to a thing, an object, and people are different from you. So that glacier is the storehouse of impressions. In yoga, we say karma shaya. Second is the rainwater. I'm comparing with the river. Rainwater means the way I think and speak and act with my surrounding, my people, dear and the near ones, and the strangers and the world outside, including my desires. That is what rainwater, rain is always pouring on me the moment I wake up until I sleep. And in sleep, I carry those impressions. And spring comes from the volcano. Sometime we erupt. Enough is enough. Bill Gates, 27 years. So after 27 years, that volcano erupted. Enough is enough. Are you getting it? Think of these three things. Mind has a flow of thoughts, two flow of thought. One is negative, the other is positive by default. And they both come from, good and bad, both come from three sources. Both come from three sources. I stopped there gossiping, so let us start our practice. We will continue the next session.